been 20 hours since we have heard from anyone.
What happened to a family of 8 who were found dead in southern Utah 6 weeks ago?
Michael Haight, he's the man who murdered 7 members of his family in Enoch earlier this month before taking his own life. 2 years ago, police investigated him for child abuse.
Her father grabbed her by the shoulders, once banged her head into wood along the back of the couch. He got angry and grabbed her by the neck and choked her. I told her that there was no indication that there would be any violent behavior on Michael's part, the officer wrote.
This familicide raises numerous questions. Why would he kill his entire family and then turn the gun on himself? Why would the police ignore earlier signs of abuse and previous interactions with the police? Why didn't anyone step in to take care of this family, even though so many people cared about them deeply, as we will see by the huge number of 911 calls made? We will explore these questions and more in this video. On January 4th, 2023, a familicide occurred in Enoch, Utah, United States, when 8 members of a single family consisting of 3 adults and 5 children were fatally shot in their home in a mass shooting. Authorities identified one of the adults, 42-year-old Michael Haight, as the perpetrator. Haight had been investigated by the Enoch Police Department for domestic abuse allegations in 2020. 2 weeks prior to the killings, his wife had commenced divorce proceedings. Police went to the family residence to conduct a welfare check at 4 p.m. on January 4th and found 8 family deceased from gunshot wounds. They were identified as 42-year-old Michael Haight, his wife Tasha Haight, 40, her mother Gail Earl, 78, and 5 children, a 17-year-old girl, a 12-year-old girl, a 7-year-old girl, a 7-year-old boy, and a 4-year-old boy. The welfare check had been requested by a family friend after Tasha had missed an appointment earlier that afternoon. Here is the 911 call made by that friend.
Was going through a divorce and was going to go back to her home last night. They had to do some paperwork. And I'm a little bit concerned. We were supposed to, we had an appointment scheduled that she missed. She doesn't ever miss appointments.
Specifically that she was concerned for her welfare about going home?
Yeah, she had some concerns about that, and I had some concerns just from talking to her, too.
After entering the home, the police immediately noticed 8 deceased family members. It was evident that Michael was the perpetrator of the incident, and he was responsible for all 8 deaths, including his own suicide. Following this, the police continued to make comments over the radio regarding the situation.
The house is clear. There are multiple victims. Stand by for more information.
The authorities determined that the perpetrator was Michael Haight, who died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound after fatally shooting his family members. Haight had been investigated by the Enoch Police Department for domestic abuse due to accusations made by his eldest daughter, Macy, in 2020. Macy reportedly told police that her father had, quote, become assaultive over the previous 3 years, that he had choked her, that she was afraid his attacks would worsen, and, quote, was very afraid he was going to kill her. Michael told the investigating officer that his daughter, 14 at the time, was, quote, mouthy. He told the investigating officer that he had surveyed his wife's phone and tablet to assure himself she hadn't spoken to the family about the family in a negative way to anyone. Tasha Haight told the officer that she didn't believe filing charges was necessary and that she expected Michael would take this as a, quote, wake-up call. The officer told Tasha that there was, quote, no indication that there would be any violent behavior on Michael's part. Asked about the domestic abuse allegations after the killings, the county attorney's office said it had found, quote, insufficient evidence to pursue criminal charges. Tasha had commenced divorce proceedings against Michael 2 weeks prior to the shooting. Days before the shooting, Tasha had reportedly told her family that Michael had removed all guns from the family home. This raises serious questions about the competence of the police department. Was the department being negligent in that they did not press criminal charges against Michael? If charges had been pressed, could this tragedy have been completely avoided? Multiple friends were extremely worried and made 911 calls regarding the situation.
He has had some violent tendencies in the past, and I believe CPS has been involved, and I actually believe she came and spoke to the police department a couple weeks ago to let her know divorce was upcoming.
This call is especially interesting because it recognizes the reality that Tasha had previously made attempts to make her home safe for her and her children and her mother-in-law. She had previously contacted the police not only regarding the divorce, but regarding domestic abuse that was occurring in the household allegedly. Now, this may demonstrate that the police were indeed being negligent because Tasha did genuinely fear that violence could be acted upon her. However, it is true that she did say she did not want to press criminal charges. Let's listen to another 911 call by a friend of the victims.
I'm actually thinking he might still have access to those, but they are at least locked up in their house.
This segment of a call is particularly interesting because the caller does not recognize/know that the guns were actually removed from the house by Michael. It is unknown where he stored the guns, but this does show some premeditation on Michael's part. It is evident that he clearly planned out this familicide, and it was not a spur-of-the-moment decision. This is because he had moved the guns to an unknown location prior to the shooting. One of the most common theories about this investigation and this familicide is that Michael murdered his family in response to Tasha serving him divorce papers. This was so serious that the attorney actually made a call to 911 to the police to mention that he had not heard or seen the family in a while.
Michael's wife served him with divorce papers within the last 2 weeks. And he's kind of been struggling with it, whatnot.
The timeline of the wife serving divorce papers, of Tasha serving Michael with divorce papers, closely lines up with the timeline of Michael hiding/taking the guns and moving them somewhere else. This furthers the case that because Tasha served divorce papers, Michael may have wanted to get revenge on Tasha, on his family, by executing this horrific crime. Now, we will never know for certain what Michael's motives were, but this does bolster that case tremendously. We see that almost immediately after Tasha serves him divorce papers, Michael is taking the guns out of the family residence. Another family friend calls 911.
It's been 20 hours since we have heard from anyone.
The drama doesn't end there regarding the aftermath, as Michael's obituary would be the subject of heated controversy and debate. It is argued that the obituary paints him in an overly positive light given the circumstances. Here is his obituary. Born on January 7th, 1980, in Seattle, Washington, to Robin and Brenda Haight, after his dad finished dental school in 1981, the family moved to Cedar City, Utah. In his youth, Michael loved spending time participating in City League baseball, basketball, soccer, various outdoor and scouting activities. He achieved the rank of Eagle Scout. Michael excelled at everything he did, graduating from Cedar High School in 1998, where he was the Sterling Scholar in Business. He was very involved in various sports and activities. Michael spent the summer after graduation working in Alaska in a fish processing plant. His leadership skills, values of honest hard work and determination, quickly led him to be a line manager over a crew of 10 to 12 men. Michael was called and served a full-time mission to Porto Alegre, South, Brazil, for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He loved the people he met on his mission and had many fond memories of his time spent there. After his mission, Michael began classes at Southern Utah University studying business. He graduated with his bachelor's degree from SUU in 2004, where he was named Outstanding Finance Student for the School of Business. During this time, he met Tasha Earle in their student war. They were married in the St. George Temple on May 10, 2003. Together they welcomed 5 beautiful children into their family: Macy Lynn, Briley Ann, Ammon Michael, Sienna Bell, and Gavin Drew. Each of these children were truly a cherished miracle to them. Michael made it a point to spend quality time with each and every one of his children. Michael enjoyed making memories with the family. He spent many evenings and Saturdays coaching the Children's City League sporting teams, attending the children's concerts at school, going on side-by-side rides, doing home improvement projects, sledding, and much more. Michael lived a life of service. Whether it was serving in the church or in the community, he was willing to help with whatever was needed. Michael owned and operated a successful insurance agency, receiving many awards and honors for his achievements. Many of his clients loved and appreciated the care and attention he gave them. He recently sold his business to allow more flexibility to spend time with his family. Michael is survived by his mother, Brenda Haight, siblings, Brian, Tamara, Mike Twitchell, Jennifer, Doug Kirksick, and grandparents Orwin and Velda Gubler. He is also survived by many aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, and cousins. Funeral services will be held privately. Family and friends will be notified of the details. The family would like to express a special thank you to those in the community who have reached out with their love and support, and all who have helped in any way. You are very much appreciated. One of the most shocking elements of the obituary that you may have noticed is that there is no mention of the victims at all. And while it is typical for obituaries to paint victims in a more positive light, recognizing the good in their lives, this is extremely atypical for someone accused of such heinous crimes. And given the massive amounts of evidence that were immediately found by the police upon conducting a search of the scene, it is extremely unlikely that the writers of the obituary were unaware of the circumstances of Michael's death, a familicide ending in a suicide. Another interesting thing about the obituary that many people criticize is that it paints him as a loving father, stating that he would spend all of his free time with his children and that he cherished his children deeply. This does not coincide with Michael's actions whatsoever, obviously. So, an obituary that is perhaps shorter, does not paint Michael in such a positive light, does not paint him as such an amazing father, would probably be extremely appropriate in the situation. Something that maybe mentions Michael's work life and does not mention that he is an amazing father, because this is extremely disrespectful to the victims. Gun rights activists, for example, are very against Michael's obituary, stating that it is disrespectful to the victims because there is no mention of them. What do you think about this case? Do you think that Michael had a reason to kill his own family? Do you think it was the divorce? Do you think that the obituary is sufficiently positive? Do you think that the obituary should have been written in a different way? Thanks for watching.